Have you ever noticed the way the world whispers to us? Not with storms or shouts, but with a quiet, persistent pull, a hunger that seems almost invisible, almost gentle, yet it shapes every choice you make, every moment you breathe. This hunger is not for food, nor for wealth, nor for fame. It is the hunger for illusions, lies we tell ourselves, comforts we cling to, manipulations we cannot see, and the pain we carry as if it were a treasure. It begins subtly. A soft voice in your mind, just a little longer, just this once. A small deception, almost harmless, and yet it opens a door. And once that door is open, the mind begins to wander, and the heart begins to follow. The ancient philosophers understood this well. The Stoics called it apatheia, the discipline of detachment, not because life would be without feeling, but because feeling without reason becomes a prison. They warned that we are slaves not to the world, but to our attachments. And there is no attachment more cunning than the addiction to illusion. And yet, we chase it. We chase the lie that life can always be easy, that comfort is safety, that pain is a signal to endure rather than a teacher to understand. We cling to manipulation, both of others and of ourselves, as if control could be a balm for our restlessness. We are, in truth, addicted. Not to substances, not to objects, but to the very shadows of our own perception. If you listen carefully, you can hear it, the quiet hunger calling to you. And if you do not understand it, if you do not see it for what it is, it will control you quietly, persistently, like a river carving stone. This is the story of that addiction. This is the guide to seeing it, naming it, and perhaps finally beginning to step away from it. Lies are the first and most seductive addiction. They do not announce themselves with alarms or sirens. They slip into conversation, into thought, into the quiet corners of our mind where we believe ourselves safe. A lie is never merely falsehood. It is a promise that the world is simpler than it is, that pain can be ignored, that desire can be satisfied without cost. Consider the lies we tell ourselves in the morning, when the sun has barely touched the horizon. I will rest today. I deserve it. Tomorrow, I will begin. The truth is that tomorrow is never certain, and yet we trade the certainty of effort for the sweetness of delay. And so begins a pattern, a habit, a chain. Each lie builds upon the last until the mind is a fortress of excuses, each more comforting, each more constricting than the last. Lies are not always malicious. Sometimes they are protective. Sometimes they are survival. But even survival can become addiction. Even comfort can become a cage. For the mind grows accustomed to safety, to illusion, and begins to crave it. The more we lie to ourselves, the more we fear the clarity of truth. The more we avoid it, the more it rules us. The Stoics called this recognition prosoch, the art of attention, of mindfulness, of seeing things as they truly are. To see the lie, one must first be willing to feel its weight. Lies are not simply words, they are chains forged in desire and fear. They promise ease, and yet they exact a cost. The slow erosion of clarity, the steady dulling of perception, the quiet resignation of the soul. And there is a danger in lies beyond mere distraction. They invite manipulation. For when we are willing to believe in the softened version of reality, we are vulnerable. Others, manipulators, deceivers, even well-meaning companions, find fertile ground in our willingness to accept comfort over truth. We become instruments of our own bondage. The liar does not merely speak. The liar plays upon our addiction to illusion. Pause and consider this. How many times have you allowed a lie to settle in your mind because it was easier than confronting reality? How many moments of discomfort have you avoided, only to find yourself trapped in a deeper snare later? The pattern is insidious because it is painless at first. It is gentle, it is sweet, it is addictive, and yet the truth waits, always unyielding, not violent, not demanding, not cruel. The truth waits silently, like the river beneath the ice, constant, patient, shaping what cannot be ignored forever. The Stoic does not seek to punish the liar or the self for falling into deception. The Stoic seeks to recognize it, to see it for what it is, and to act from clarity rather than from craving. This is the first lesson in the addiction of lies. To name it is to begin to disentangle it. To see it is to reclaim a measure of freedom. And freedom, once tasted, is a temptation far greater than any lie. Comfort is a curious thing. It wears no chains, speaks no threats, yet it binds more tightly than iron. At first, it seems harmless, the soft chair, the easy path, the familiar routine. We tell ourselves that comfort is a reward, that it is peace. And for a time, it feels exactly like that. But comfort is not always peace. Often, it is the softest form of slavery. It whispers to the mind, "Stay here, you are safe. Do not risk, do not question, do not disturb the ease you have found." And we listen. We listen because it is pleasant. We listen because the alternative, effort, uncertainty, confrontation, is uncomfortable. And so the addiction begins. The human mind craves this warmth, this avoidance of friction. We become addicted not to pleasure, but to the absence of discomfort. And in doing so, we begin to shrink. We trade adventure for routine, honesty for appeasement, curiosity for passivity. The world becomes smaller, the self more confined, until one day we realize that the life we inhabit is not ours, but the one we allowed comfort to dictate. Philosophers of old understood this well. Epictetus reminded us that we are disturbed not by events, but by our judgments of them. Comfort, unchecked, teaches the mind to judge effort and challenges enemies. It convinces us that striving is optional, that growth is negotiable. And so we fall into a cycle, craving ease, fearing struggle, repeating the same motions while wondering why life feels hollow. Yet, there is a paradox here. The very thing we chase, ease, safety, the warm embrace of routine, is what ensures that our spirit grows restless. Comfort becomes a mirror, reflecting not fulfillment but emptiness. We seek pleasure and find restraint. We avoid pain and discover captivity. The addicted mind will rationalize. "I deserve this," it whispers. "I've earned this pause. Tomorrow I will act." But tomorrow is never certain, and action postponed becomes possibility denied. Slowly, imperceptibly, the mind is corralled. We are free only in theory. In practice, we are prisoners of our own indulgence, and yet comfort has another facet. It masks fear. To remain in ease is to avoid facing oneself. It shields us from the questions we dare not ask. Who am I when I am stripped of safety? What do I value beyond this fleeting pleasure? What truths am I avoiding because they demand change? These questions stir anxiety, and anxiety threatens our illusions. So the mind clings tighter to comfort, and the addiction deepens. But liberation is possible. Stoic discipline teaches that comfort is neither enemy nor friend. It is simply a condition of life, and we may choose to inhabit it consciously. To sit in warmth yet remain awake. To embrace ease, yet not surrender curiosity. To enjoy peace, yet seek truth. Imagine a man sitting in a sunlit room, a cup of tea in hand, the soft murmur of the city outside. He smiles, content, yet a shadow lingers in his mind, a question unasked, a truth unexamined. This is the threshold of freedom. Comfort is not removed, but clarity enters. He does not flee the warmth, but he does not let it blind him. He sees, and in seeing, he begins to loosen the invisible chains. This is the lesson of comfort. The addiction is not in the warmth itself, but in surrendering awareness to it. Pleasure, safety, ease, these are natural, inevitable. But when they become masters, they steal the mind's vigilance, and with it, the soul's expansion. Thus begins the Stoic practice, to live comfortably without being enslaved, to enjoy ease without allowing it to dictate action, to sit in warmth while keeping the fire of attention alive. This is the balance, the quiet rebellion against the soft tyranny of indulgence. And when we step into this awareness, the first true freedom is felt. The realization that we may choose discomfort when it serves growth, that we may embrace challenge without fear, that we may leave the soft cage of habit and walk unshackled into the world of possibility. For the mind addicted to comfort, the first taste of liberation is unsettling. It demands courage to face what has been ignored, and patience to endure what has been postponed. But even the smallest step, observing one habitual choice, questioning one desire, facing one fear, begins the unraveling of the warm prison. And so we learn, comfort is not our enemy. It is the mirror in which we see our patterns. It is the teacher that shows us where we are enslaved. And when we gaze long enough, with patience and clarity, we begin to understand that the path to freedom is not a denial of warmth, but a disciplined embrace of awareness. There is a rhythm to manipulation, subtle and hypnotic, like a dance in which we are invited to lead, but are never allowed the steps. At first, it seems harmless, a suggestion, a reassurance, a small concession. Yet the dance is not ours to direct. We are drawn into it because we crave ease, because the comfort of agreement feels safer than the friction of resistance. Manipulation feeds upon the same addiction that lies and comfort create. It thrives in minds willing to surrender clarity for harmony, in hearts willing to accept illusion rather than discomfort. It is not always malevolent. Sometimes it wears the guise of kindness, of care, of friendship. But the effect is the same. The surrender of agency, the quiet compromise of self-trust. Consider the ways we permit others to lead our choices. A word spoken in jest, a suggestion framed as concern, a question disguised as curiosity, each a subtle invitation to hand over a piece of our judgment. And we comply, often without awareness, because resistance seems rude, because conflict is unpleasant, because we have grown addicted to the soothing illusion that others' desires are our own. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus wrote that some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. Manipulation exploits the boundary we forget, the domain of our own will. When we forget what is ours to control, we give others the power to shape our mind, to dictate our emotions, to orchestrate our choices. And we call it comfort. The dance of manipulation is especially dangerous because it is reciprocal. The manipulator feeds on our concessions, but we feed on the relief of yielding. Every avoidance, every compromise, every unexamined yes reinforces the rhythm until the pattern becomes automatic, until the chain becomes invisible. We do not realize we are addicted to it, addicted to the fleeting calm that comes from surrendering, addicted to the hollow safety of acquiescence, addicted to the quiet illusion of control. And yet, there is a way to step out of the dance. It begins with observation, to see the steps as they are, to notice the rhythm without judgment, to acknowledge the pull without yielding. The Stoic does not condemn the manipulator. The Stoic does not rage against the dance. The Stoic simply refuses to be led by it. Imagine a conversation. A friend insists subtly that you see the world their way. The words are gentle, almost imperceptible, yet they tug at your mind. "You trust me, don't you?" the voice says, a trap hidden in kindness. And in that moment you pause, you breathe, you recognize the pattern. You do not react, you are aware. And in that awareness, the power of the dance falters. Manipulation loses its force, not when it is confronted with anger, but when it is met with clarity. The mind addicted to acquiescence must learn to sit in discomfort, to feel the unease that comes from refusal, and to recognize that freedom is always preferable to ease. The first steps out of the dance are always uncomfortable, but each one strengthens the mind until the rhythm no longer controls you. The paradox is this: we are both the prisoner and the prisoner maker. Our desire for comfort and avoidance allows manipulation to flourish. But our awareness, our clarity, our refusal to surrender automatic agency, these are the keys to liberation. No one manipulates what has no owner, and the ownership of our mind is ours alone. There is a subtle victory in simply observing the dance. To see it, to name it, to understand it, and yet to remain uncommitted to it, is a lesson few ever learn. Most continue, step after step, unaware of the chain that binds them. But the Stoic does not despair. The Stoic sees the dance, recognizes the addiction it feeds, and chooses a different rhythm. One guided not by fear, not by craving, not by comfort, but by reason. And in this choice lies freedom. Freedom not of circumstance, but of perception. Not of the world, but of the self. The dance may continue around us, but we are no longer compelled to move with it. We may watch, we may participate consciously, we may withdraw entirely, but always with awareness. The addiction to manipulation weakens in the presence of attention. Just as shadows fade when the sun rises, in the dance of manipulation, the Stoic mind discovers a truth both simple and profound. The power to resist always exists, not outside, but within. The chains are not external. They are forged in neglect, in distraction, in the surrender of self. And when we reclaim our attention, when we reclaim our choices, when we reclaim our clarity, the dance becomes ours to watch and not ours to follow. Pain is a strange companion. Unlike lies, unlike comfort, it does not seduce with sweetness or ease. It strikes with clarity, with force, with undeniable presence. And yet we grow addicted to it. We cultivate it, we chase it, we wrap it around ourselves as if it were a cloak, a badge, or a sign of life itself. Consider the way we linger on past wounds, replaying memories that burn, rehearsing regrets that ache. There is a hidden comfort in this ritual. Pain becomes familiar, it becomes predictable, it becomes, in a twisted sense, safe. We know its shape, its texture, its rhythm. We fear the unknown more than the hurt we already carry, and so we remain bound. The Stoics observed this human tendency long before psychologists named it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Yet many misinterpret this as endurance alone. The Stoic sees that suffering is inevitable, but the addiction to suffering, the clinging, the prolonging, The feeding on one's own wounds is voluntary. Pain teaches us many lessons, but when it becomes a habit, it teaches nothing but stagnation. The mind addicted to suffering confuses intensity with authenticity. It believes that to feel deeply, to exist fully, one must experience anguish, resentment, or guilt. And so it returns again and again to the very thing that drains it, mistaking attachment for vitality. There is a cruel beauty in this cycle. Pain sharpens perception. It commands attention. It feels alive. The mind, starved of clarity, drinks deeply from this bitter cup, believing it is nourishment. And all the while the soul whispers, there is another way. There is freedom. To break this addiction, one must first witness it. Observe without judgment, without shame, without self-recrimination. The Stoic practices prosouche, attentive awareness. Recognize the pull of pain. Acknowledge the craving for its familiar weight and choose to step back. To see suffering without embracing it is the first act of liberation. Imagine a man walking along a stormy shore, each wave a memory of failure, each gust of wind a reminder of loss. He could retreat to the safety of the sand, curl around his regrets, and let the storm dictate his steps. Or he could lift his gaze, steady his breath, and walk through the tempest with measured care, acknowledging the pain without letting it claim him. Pain, once understood, ceases to be a master. It becomes a teacher. It instructs without commanding. It warns without ensnaring. And in the balanced mind, it reveals clarity. The suffering we endure need not define us. The past need not chain us. The emotions we feel need not control us. Yet temptation remains. The addicted mind will whisper, why let go? You have survived this before. You know its flavor. Its sting is familiar. You are alive because of it. And there is truth in that. We are alive because we have felt deeply. But survival is not the same as mastery. Life is not measured by the intensity of wounds, but by the courage to walk unbound, even when pain is present. Stoic wisdom offers a mirror. All external events, all past injuries, all losses, these are neither good nor bad. They simply are. What we choose to give them, our attention, our energy, our surrender, is what shapes their power over us. And when we reclaim this choice, even partially, the addiction begins to loosen. The mind addicted to pain discovers that freedom is not absence, but presence. It is not numbness, but awareness. It is not escape, but clarity. And in that clarity, the storm no longer rages unchecked. The waves crash, the winds howl, but the observer walks steadily, anchored in reason and tempered by acceptance. Pain in this light is no longer a chain, but a teacher. The addiction fades, not by denying suffering, but by refusing to make it the center of existence. The mind learns to inhabit life fully, without needing the sharp edge of anguish to feel alive. And in this balance, the delicate equilibrium between feeling and mastery, the human spirit finds a measure of freedom that lies beyond both comfort and suffering, beyond lies and manipulation.